Okay, we'll roll call in 30 seconds here. All right. Good afternoon and welcome to the February 23rd City Council public hearing on land use matters. I'll recognize that the land we're talking about is Treaty 6 territory, which is the longtime home of the Cree, the Dene, the Saulteaux, the Blackfoot, and the Nakota Sioux peoples, as well as one of the homelands of the Métis Nation and a gathering place for people trying to build a better city together from all over the world. So we'll call forth that spirit of working together to help us through today's meeting. And I will roll call to establish attendance for today, starting this time with Councillor Zadok.
I'm here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Councillor Essinger.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Councillor Hamilton.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson.
I am here.
Councillor Knack.
Good afternoon.
Councillor McKean.
Present.
Councillor Nichol.
Good afternoon.
Councillor Paquette.
Good afternoon.
Councillor Walters. Councillor Walters?
Yes, sir. Sorry, I'm here.
No problem. Welcome. Councillor Banga.
Good afternoon and Sat Sri Akal.
Thank you. Councillor Carmel.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Councillor Katarina.
Hello.
That's everybody. Welcome. Adoption of the agenda. Councillor Essinger, if you'd be so kind.
I'm happy to move the adoption of the City Council public hearing agenda for February 23rd, 2021.
Second.
Thank you. Please vote on the adoption of the agenda as proposed.
We have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Ooh, the system works. Display the vote. Unanimously adopted. Protocol items, I don't think we have any today. We did 2 days worth yesterday anyway, so let's orient folks to the procedures for today's hearing. What will happen is the clerk will call out the bylaws to be dealt with, and I will call out the names of people registered to speak to each bylaw. Next, council will select the bylaws that we wish to discuss and vote on any bylaws that have not been selected for discussion. Council will then listen to each of the bylaws that were selected for discussion and debate. For each item, administration will first provide an overview of the bylaw, and then members of the public will be invited to speak virtually using Google Meet. Those in favor will speak first, followed by those opposed. Each will have 5 minutes to make comments. The clerk will run the official timer in the room here. However, attendees participating virtually may wish to use a timer at home too. When each of you is finished, please stay on the line as council may wish to ask you questions. After comments from the public, council may ask questions of city administration. After all the speakers have concluded, I will ask each speaker if they wish to speak to any new information which arose during the public hearing. This process requires a bit of patience to ensure that anyone who does wish to address council has an appropriate opportunity. And thereafter, council may close the public hearing and debate the bylaw. For those participating virtually, please refrain from using the chat function in Google Meet during the meeting, as it creates issues of decorum, provides unfair advantage, and can interfere technically with the live stream. Additionally, remember to mute your microphone when you're not presenting or answering questions. If you're experiencing any difficulties, the Office of City Clerk has resources available to facilitate communication with those participating in the statutory public hearing process. Please reach out using the contact information provided in your registration or via city.clerk@edmonton.ca. Madam Clerk, first up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there anyone to speak to item 3.1, Charter Bylaw 19560, to allow for a public park maypole?
Yes, I have Elise Shillington to answer questions only from Stantec.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And John Chan to answer questions only from Dream Development.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And no one in opposition.
Is there anyone to speak to item 3.2, Charter Bylaw 19563, to allow for a range of efficient ground-oriented housing development, Rosenthal?
Yes, I have Sarah Sherman to answer questions only from IBI Group. Sarah, are you there? Okay, well, we'll see if we
I
can...
am, yes, sorry.
Oh,
Here I am.
No problem. Thank you. And next, Catherine Chopko-Beck to answer questions only from IBI Group.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And PJ Pescod to answer questions only from Melcor.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And no one in opposition.
Items 3.3 and 3.4 will be dealt with together. Is there anyone to speak to item 3.3, Bylaw 19558, to amend the Edgemont Neighborhood Area Structure Plan? Or item 3.4, Charter Bylaw 19559, to allow for ground-oriented housing, Edgemont?
Yes, Bladen Dibben to answer questions only.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Wade Zwicker to answer questions only from Cameron Communities.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And Crystal Brightwell to answer questions only, also from Cameron Communities.
Hello.
Hello. And no one in opposition on that either.
Items 3.5 and 3.6 will be dealt with together. Is there anyone to speak to item 3.5, Bylaw 19556, amendment to the Crystalina Nara East Neighborhood Structure Plan? Or item 3.6, Charter Bylaw 19557, to allow for the development of a future school park site and a mix of low-density housing types, Crystalina Nara East and West?
Yes, I have Bladen Dibben again to answer questions, and Courtney Jensen to answer questions only from Strata Development Corp.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and no one in opposition on that.
Is there anyone to speak to item 3.7, Charter Bylaw 19568, to allow for single detached and semi-detached housing, Chappelle?
Yes, I have Elise Shillington again from Stantec, and Peter Tsoukalis to answer questions only from Brookfield.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And no one in opposition.
Items 3.8 and 3.9 will be dealt with together. Is there anyone to speak to item 3.8, Bylaw 19569, amendment to the Glen Redding Ravine Neighborhood Structure Plan? Or item 3.9, Charter Bylaw 19570, to allow for row housing and low-density housing, Glen Redding Ravine?
Yes, Keith Davies to answer questions only.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And Joe Marchese to answer questions only.
Hello, thank you.
You're welcome. And no one in opposition. Next.
Items 310 and 311 will be dealt with together. Is there anyone to speak to item 310, Bylaw 19572, amendment to the Rampart Industrial Area Structure Plan? Or item 311, Charter Bylaw 19562, to allow for industrial businesses and limited compatible non-industrial businesses, Rampart Industrial?
Yes, I have Charles Jensen.
I'm here.
And do you wish to make a presentation, or is it just questions only if there are any?
Answer questions.
Questions only? Okay,
Yeah.
got it. And you're the only speaker I have on this item, so thank you.
Items 312 and 313 will be dealt with together. Is there anyone to speak to item 312, Bylaw 19542, amendment to the Jasper Place Area Redevelopment Plan? Or item 313, Charter Bylaw 19543, to allow for small-scale infill development, Britannia Youngstown?
Yes, I have Armando Hernandez to answer questions only from Dualita Architecture.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Thank you for the time.
Good afternoon, and I have no one in opposition on this item.
Items 314 and 315 will be dealt with together. Is there anyone to speak to item 314, Bylaw 19544, amendment to the Jasper Place Area Redevelopment Plan? Or item 315, Charter Bylaw 19545, to allow for small-scale infill development, Britannia Youngstown?
Yes, I have Atnish Raju to answer questions only from TechView Homes Limited.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, and I have no one in opposition on this item.
Is there anyone to speak to item 316, Charter Bylaw 19548, to allow for small-scale infill development Sherwood?
Yes, I have Tony Mayhe to answer questions only.
And also Sam Rollins, I did register late, but I am here to speak in opposition.
Yes, I'm going to call you in a moment, sir, if you'll stand by.
My apologies.
That's okay. Is Tony Mayhe here?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm here.
Welcome. Thank you. And Mr. Rollins, we hear you loud and clear as well. One speaker registered in opposition on the Sherwood item.
Thank you.
Items 317 and 318 will be dealt with together. Is there anyone to speak to item 317, Charter Bylaw 19549, text amendment to section 860 of the Edmonton zoning bylaw, or item 318, Charter Bylaw 19550, to amend DC 1 provisions in the quarters Boyle Street?
Yes, I have Claire St. Aubin to answer questions only from the City of Edmonton.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And no one in opposition.
Is there anyone to speak to item 319, Charter Bylaw 19571, to allow for the addition of cannabis retail sales to an existing DC2 provision?
Yes, I have Lilith Holder to answer questions only from InvizTech Consulting Limited.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And Stephen Yu to answer questions only from InvizTech.
Hello.
Hello. And no one in opposition.
Is there anyone to speak to item 320, Charter Bylaw 19418, to provide for ground-oriented housing, Avonmore?
Yes, I have Marcelo Figuera to answer questions only.
Good afternoon. Here, Mr. Mayor. I have a presentation if needed. Thank you.
Only if needed, though?
Yes, only if needed.
Understood, because I have no one in opposition on your item. So, thank you. Next.
Thank you.
Items 321 and 322 will be dealt with together. Is there anyone to speak to item 321, Bylaw 19537, Amendment to the Dakota Area Structure Plan, or item 322, Charter Bylaw 19538, Adoption of the Meltwater Neighborhood Structure Plan?
Yes, I have Stephen Yu to answer questions only from InvizTech,
Hello.
who we heard from previously. I have Rob Dolavoet to answer questions only from InvizTech.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And Scott Mackey to answer questions only.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And in opposition, I have Janice Jantz.
She has indicated that she's running a bit behind.
Okay, but we are expecting her.
We are.
Okay. Those are all the speakers I have. Any late registrations that we're aware of? Okay.
Not that we're aware of.
Then we know what we need to know to proceed. So selection of items for debate, starting with Councillor Hamilton.
Could I grab 3.3 and 3.4? I just have a couple of questions for administration on that.
You may. Thank you. Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, I'll do 3.7, but really just for voting purposes, but I'd like the opportunity to explain my vote, so I'm not sure the best way to handle that. I don't need a presentation. I don't have any questions.
Sounds like the only one before it's fairly quick too, so we'll just select it and then we can go in order on these.
And then I'm presuming that Councillor Banga, I'll leave the other two for Councillor Banga and Councillor Knack, who I suspect will do the other two that need to be selected.
They are on the list indeed. Councillor Banga.
Yes, can I select 3.1, 3.21, and 3.22, please?
You may. They are selected. And Councillor Knack.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll select item 3.16.
Got it.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move closure of the omnibus of all others not selected.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Caterina, seconded by Councillor Nicol. Please vote on closure of the public hearings. On the omnibus.
We're just missing Councillor Walter's vote. I need 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote, please.
And Mr. Mayor, I'll move first reading, and this is the omnibus 3.2, 5, 6, 8 to 15, 17 to 20.
I'll second that, but did we declare the vote on the last one?
Yes, it was carried.
Oh, I
Yep.
must have missed it. Sorry. Okay, second. I'm on the wrong screen. Yeah.
Please vote on first reading.
And we have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote. Carried.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move second reading of the omnibus as stated.
Second.
On the second reading, please vote.
And we're just missing Councillor Zadek's vote.
Yes.
Thank you. We have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display it, please. Carried.
And Mr. Mayor, I'll move consideration for third reading on the omnibus as stated.
Second.
Please vote to allow third reading to proceed today.
Yes.
We have all the votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote, please. Carried.
And Mr. Mayor, I'll move third reading of bylaw 19563, 19556, 19557, 19569, 19570, 19572, 19562, 19542, 19543, 19544, 19545, 19549, 19550, 19571, and 19418.
Second.
Please vote on the listed bylaws third reading.
And we have all the votes.
Display the vote. Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you. Now, Councillor Hamilton, would you like the presentation or to go straight to questions?
I can go straight to questions.
Pardon me? Oh, sorry.
So
Pardon me. 3.1 was selected by Councillor Banga. I missed that. Sorry. Okay, we're not on the Edgemont item yet. Sorry, my mistake. Councillor Banga, you've got questions on 3.1. Do you want the presentation or straight into it? Councillor Banga? Why don't we bring forward the Edgemont item?
I'll move to bring 3.3 and 3.4 forward.
Second.
Thank you. Is there unanimous consent to bring it forward? No objections? All right. Well, we'll deal with Edgemont since it's also quick, and then we'll see if we can get Councillor Banga back on the line. Okay. Councillor Hamilton, back to you.
thank you for the grace of council today. My questions are for administration. I have a couple of questions about transportation, but something really stuck out for me in the report. I'm just scanning to find it. Under the application summary, notified community organizations cite the Hamptons Community League, and I'm wondering why you didn't send it to the Edgemont Community League.
I'll have Laurie Moulton answer that.
Sorry, when we do the notification, it's based on what's in our system. And I'm guessing that neighborhood or community league wasn't in our system, but I will check into it and see what the issue was.
Yeah, because they've been around for over a year now. I think they got their charter approved in December 2019. So my following questions relate to some significant concerns I've heard around transportation and transportation impacts, especially on Edgemont Boulevard. In the application, I'm noting that one of the parameters for the development, if approved, and if it proceeds before other development in the area, is the developers agreed to do 2 lanes of arterial construction on 215 Street. What's the plan for this part? Obviously, Winterburn Road / 215 Street is a bit of a historic road. It's a little bit of tar and gravel and a little bit of concrete or a little bit of asphalt. And I was wondering what the plan is for modernizing and developing out that road, because something I hear a lot from residents in this area is about traffic volumes, and that's something that's reflected in the comments on the report. So notwithstanding the development, what's the plan for this road?
Councillor Hamilton, 215 Street ultimately is planned for a 4-lane arterial roadway as part of the subdivisions and zonings that have occurred in Edgemont already. The first 2 lanes of 215 Street will be constructed as an urbanized cross-section. And the zoning that we have in front of us, the connection to 215 Street from 35 Avenue, that will also be conditioned with improvements at the intersection.
Mm-hmm. But that's only if the development proceeds, which means not only does it have to pass here today, but then the proponent has to take out a development permit, correct?
These improvements are for the broader network. So if this approves or not, regardless, we are working with the developers in the area for arterial improvements.
All right. Do we have, and I don't want to, there's obviously larger issues on Winterburn Road, but do we have a plan for modernizing and updating that road in the next budget? Do we have something coming on that?
For timelines, I don't have concrete timelines in front of us. We do have these roadways conditioned for upgrades under different subdivisions. So once the servicing agreements are signed, then we can proceed.
Okay, I might have I'm going to need, I think, more solid information. So I'm going to ask, I'm going to do a subsequent on that. I guess there's just west of the parcel that we're talking about, there's also a north-south connection between Edgemont Boulevard, aka 35th Avenue, and Lassard Road. And I'm wondering if we have, I understand that there's a potentially non-participating landowner that has that parcel of land, but I was wondering if we had an update on when those connections might be formed.
Yes, that's all part and parcel of our discussions with the developers, because we have 2 options in front of us. One is to upgrade 215 Street from 35 Avenue all the way north to 62 Avenue, or we extend Lizard Road from its current terminus to 215 Street, and then upgrade 215 Street between Lizard and 35 Avenue. Those 2 options are being worked upon.
All right, thank you. So I'm struggling a bit with the there's a lot of concerns in Edgemont around the about traffic and traffic patterns as the developments are evolving, which I'm not going to put on the developer, but I am concerned that this didn't go to the Edgemont Community League and they didn't have an opportunity to participate. So I'd like some advice in terms of referring this application back so that we can actually get some feedback from the appropriate community league, because I'm almost certain that they'd have something to say about this. I don't know if the clerks have any advice or...
Councillor, it's Jamie Johnson here. So, yeah, up to the chair, of course, but a referral motion back for further engagement would would be within your purview.
All right, if that's acceptable to the chair, I'm going to move referral of this for further engagement with the Edgemont Community League, so they have an opportunity to weigh in and ask questions around the transportation piece.
Second.
Okay, so referral is the motion. I wonder if we can save ourselves re-advertising and by setting a defined time for this referral.
That's amenable, and I'd look to either Mr. Johnson or the clerks for advice on that.
Well, I think let's get the referral, the scope of the referral clear so that we know what the expectation is. Is it to notify the community league so that they can come to a public hearing to share their concerns? Or is it an expectation that on the basis of further consultation that there would be changes to the application? Because
no, it's so that they can be properly notified. I would say I wouldn't presume changes, but so that they can be properly notified.
What's the usual circulation lead time? Because we could just postpone it to the next public hearing potentially and provide written notification to the community league of the postponement and invite them if they have feedback to provide it electronically and also to attend the hearing.
All right, so the next public hearing is in March. Might be a bit tight for us to turn that around. I would suggest the April. There's 2 meetings in April. We could certainly notify before those meetings.
Okay.
That's amenable.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about time as it relates to construction seasons and applications. If it's the will of council to proceed with this ultimately, wouldn't want to blow a lot of time if the purpose is really notification. What's the date of the first one in?
April 7th is the first date in April.
Okay, and I see that I think it's Mr. Zwicker has his hand up, so it might be worth checking with the applicants about, one, what if any engagement they've done with the Community League, and two, implications of postponement. So under fairly premature new information, but still, nonetheless, Mr. Zwicker.
Councillors, while I was not aware that the Edgemont Community League had not been communicated with, I understand the concerns with transportation. The concerns on transportation might be something that would go back to administration for a report pertaining to construction upgrading of 215th Street. The development that we're bringing forward will have minimal impact, and there have been other subdivisions that are conditioned for the upgrading of 215th Street. There have been preliminary drawings, and I understand detailed engineering drawings for that work by another developer for their development. To hold up this application will kill our construction potential for this year, because we still have to circulate engineering drawings, which cannot go pending the approvals. I'm not sure if there's anything the Community League would have against this development as opposed to 215th Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Zwicker on that? Not seeing any. Thank you. So postponement is what's before us here. Do we have that motion in a form where we can put it on the screen for debate?
Yes, we can have that displayed shortly.
Okay. And so I think that was put by Councillor Hamilton and seconded by Councillor Knack, so that question is supersedes. So on that, Councillor Walters?
Thanks. So just in terms of what Ms. Wicker said, is it a better approach to just have a different motion pertaining to that particular transportation challenge as opposed to a postponement? Maybe someone from the mid could answer that, and or the mover.
I think we have, if I may, we have two questions before us. We have a issue with the route consultation that it appears that, and I haven't heard from the Edgemont Community League, which surprised me actually a little bit, but on one hand, we have a community group that was not properly, a community organization that wasn't properly notified. And then on the other hand, I have my own awareness of the transportation issues in the neighborhood. So I think to take Mr. Zwicker's point, that report on the transportation plan for 215 Street, including when we're going to see some action on it, is important. But there's, I think, a question as well that I struggle with, which is that we have a community organization that was not included and should have rightfully been included in the process, whether or not they had feedback on this application or anything having to do with transportation in the area. Like we missed someone here, essentially.
Right, and that's, and not to lay blame necessarily, but the responsibility for that lies with who? Administration or the proponent? With administration, correct? In the advertising.
I mean, I'm looking at the application summary, so it would be administration's report of who is notified. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions on referral? Or pardon me, postponement, to be really clear. Is it, well, or where did we land on that? Because we're not expecting changes, we're postponement for purposes of allowing notification to occur. Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Mayor, you probably want to go with a postponement if it's just for notification purposes. As compared to a referral.
Is that friendly, consistent with your intent? Will that satisfy what needs to happen in your mind, Councillor Hamilton?
Yes.
Okay. We'll make that change then if there's no objection from the Assembly. Not hearing any. Then Councillor Knack?
Yes, sorry, Mr. Mayor. Based on what I've heard, I don't see why we wouldn't set the March 16th date instead of the April 7th. That's still 3 weeks, and that maybe that alleviates the concern of the applicant while still giving the community a chance to view this. It's not a standard 2 weeks because there's a week recess, so I would move just an amendment to say March 16th, just to get it earlier in front of us.
Second.
Well,
that's friendly.
If the email's today,
we can look to send out the notice tomorrow, and because of there is no advertising, we should be able to hit that date.
Okay. Okay. So then that sounds like it's friendly all around unless there's an objection. Not hearing any, so we'll adjust the date to the next public hearing in March. Councillor Banga.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As stated in this motion, it is asking for administration to notify the community league. Does that limit any further input from the community leagues? I mean, there has to be a purpose to it rather than just a notification. I guess my question is for the mover. Does it address what is Councillor Hamilton is looking for?
The question's for Councillor Hamilton.
That's correct.
Yes, yeah, this is friendly. This is amenable to me.
Okay. Yeah, if you're happy with this, then it's fine.
Okay. Anything further? Councillor Hamilton to close.
Thank you for this quick debate. I know this isn't favorable to the proponent, and I've heard that feedback. Hopefully we can get this to the Community League, and I'm otherwise happy to, I'm in support of the project, but it's an oversight in a young community, and I also want all proponents in this neighborhood to have the confidence of the communities that they're working in. So hopefully we can clear this up and see you back on March 16th. I'll also have a subsequent later today with respect to that transportation question for administration, so as not to delay the proponent's application further. So thank you for your support on this.
Please vote on postponement to the next hearing.
We're still missing a few votes. Councillor Katarina?
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. And Councillor Paquette?
I am a yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Walters?
Mine's frozen. I'm a no.
Thank you. We have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote. Carried 12-1. All right, we're back to the maple item. Councillor Banga, did you want the presentation, or are you happy to go straight to questions?
I'll go straight to questions.
And
from
are they for the applicant?
Yes.
Okay. To Ms. Shillington or Mr. Chan, do you know who you'd like to direct them to?
Probably Mr. Chan.
Okay. Mr. Chan, are you there?
Okay. Yeah, anyway, just to start off, I need to know, since this area is a problematic area already for accessibility concerns due to the presence of railway line, Anthony Handay and Whitemud Freeway. Is this going to complicate the matters any further?
This specific application for the park does not impact the access to the secondary road or the current access that's available.
Okay, and then my other question is, I know there is another associated subdivision application, LDA 170368, before the administration. Are you folks the applicant on that too?
Yes, we are. That's it's a revision to an already approved subdivision.
Okay, and the area just north of this park, it's also park zone. There are no changes contemplated to that area, are they?
No, we're just hoping to bring on a larger park space for the current residents of Maple Crest.
All right, so and the last question is about, I know administration and did mention low water pressure. Is is that a concern to you in this application? I know it for the future applications, it would be, I guess, mitigated in one way or another. But for this portion of your application, would it affect somehow?
There currently is no water pressure issues with this current application.
All right. Then I guess I'll revert to administration for a couple questions. Basically the same questions.
Can I get Mr. Saeed to answer the emergency access questions, please?
Councilor Banger, this application will not change anything in this area. It's an extension of an already half of the park is zoned, and the remaining half is being proposed to be zoned here.
Okay. Yeah, it's basically in the middle of a farmland. You know why this application is not, I guess, kind of considered with the other application that the proponent apparently has in the process?
Mr. Heinrichs, could you field that question, please?
Certainly. I'm not aware or familiar with the subdivision application, but this particular rezoning application is simply a stepping stone to help facilitate the assembly and completion of the full park site in the southern part of the Maple neighborhood.
All right. And the last but not the least, again, is same water pressure question. Whose responsibility is it if, I guess, further applications come, or even if this area is, I don't know, maybe later on rezoned or something, whatever, whose responsibility is it?
Thank you, Councillor. Typically, when we get comments like that from EPCOR, it's an advisement to look forward to the future and plan accordingly. So if a booster station is required in any particular subdivision where water pressures are a concern, it's typically included as part of a servicing agreement as a condition of a subdivision that ultimately will follow rezoning applications.
Okay. Well, I guess these were all my questions, and I'm good to go with that then.
All right, let me just...
And entrance has no, just to make sure, the one entrance or the second undeveloped entrance has no concerns, I guess, at this point in time, do they?
Was your question for Mr. Saeed?
Yes, please.
Yeah, that's correct, Councilor Banger.
All right, thanks a lot then. I'm ready to vote.
All right, well, let me just see if there's any new information. There is not. Would you like to move closure?
Yes, please. And basically there were...
Hold on, I just need a seconder. Councillor Nicol. Okay, go ahead, speaking to it.
Oh, sorry about that. There were concerns from the area. I know I have a motion before the council there about the accessibility, safety of these folks in that surrounded area between all three, I guess, obstacles. There is only one entrance at this time, and I wanted to make sure from administration and also for from the proponent that what we are approving today is not going to further interfere with the safety of the people living in the area there. Anyhow, this is, to me, it looks pretty simple, but again, I'm not an expert in the land zone matters, so I just wanted to get their feedback on these issues that I have noted in the report, and also the concerns from folks. And basically, people are saying that nothing should be approved till we take care of these entrance problems to that area, and accessibility problems to the area before that. But I am being assured by the administration that this has no bearing on it. So I'm good to go. Thank you, and I'm in favor.
Thank you. Please vote.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Katarina. And the vote is coming. It's just loading on our end. And we have 13 votes.
Display the vote. We missed the display there.
Apologies, Mr. Mayor. It did carry.
Okay. Figured it would. Okay, so first reading.
I move the first reading of
Second.
bylaw, I got it, 195. Okay, 6-0. Thank you.
And I think the seconder was Councillor Nicoll again.
Yep.
Please vote on first reading.
I subsequently moved the second reading of.
Apologies, Mr. Benga. Councillor Benga, we're just missing a couple of councillors still.
Still waiting.
Oh, okay.
Still waiting on concluding the vote there.
Thank you, Councillor Zadok, and Councillor Katarina as well.
Yes, as well for me, so votes out of the question.
Thank you. We have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote. And that's carried. Now you can move second reading, Councillor.
Mr. Mayor, sorry for getting too excited, and I do move second reading of Charter Bylaw 19560.
Second.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Please vote.
Thank you, Councillor Katarina.
It's going to be a lovely park, I'm sure. It's reason to be excited.
Thank you, Councillor Zadok. We do have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote.
Mr. Mayor, I moved consideration for third reading for bylaw 19560.
Second.
Please vote.
Charter bylaws. Sorry.
All good. All good. We know what you mean.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Please vote on consideration.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I move.
Just a moment, Councillor. I've got to get all the votes in and just.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. We just got the 13th vote.
Okay, display the vote. Carried. And if you would like to move third and final reading, Councillor, the floor is yours.
Third and final reading for Charter Bylaw 19560.
Second.
Marvelous. Please vote.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Katarina. And we're just missing a couple of votes. Councillor Hamilton.
I'm a yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Nicoll.
I'm a yes.
Thank you. We have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote. Carried. Okay, 2 down, 3 to go. Next up is Chappelle. Councillor Henderson, you'd selected this
Yeah,
just.
Well,
Hold on, let me, if there are no questions on this, we can close the hearing and move to debate.
Yeah, I have no questions.
Okay.
I'll close the hearing on this, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Councillor Katarina, seconded by Councillor Banga, I think, to second, or to close public hearing on 3.7. Please vote.
So I'll move, Councillor Henderson wants to speak to it, so I'll move first reading.
Hold on, I still need to declare the vote from
Yes.
closure.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I have yeses for Councillors Nichols, Zadek, and Katarina verbally, and we have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Please display them. And they are carried. Okay, and so Councillor Katarina, you'll move first reading?
I'll move first reading of 3.7.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Banga.
Speak
And speaking to it, Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, just really quickly, this is a kind of deja vu all over again to something that I voted no to before, and I didn't need to ask questions because I suspect the answers will be the same. But it's around allowing front driveways where we have a laneway in place, which we had a very, very similar application a few weeks ago. I just think it's bad practice, and I wanted to be recognized as not supporting it again. I voted against it last time. But I wanted a chance to explain my vote. So that's all I really need to do. I will be opposing this for a second time. And I would just flag that, since then, we've had some grief around some of the situations with the West Valley Line LRT, where exactly the situation where we've allowed front driveways where there was a rear lane. We then have to come back after the fact and try and do closures, and it's created grief because we set up expectations that I think probably are unnecessary. So I think it's bad practice, and I would like to be recognized as suggesting we should not be encouraging it in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Any other debate on this one? Not seeing any. Please vote.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Katarina. And we're just missing your vote, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. We have 13 votes.
Display the vote. Carried 7-6. Ooh.
Yeah, move second reading, Mr. Mayor, of 3.7.
Second.
Please vote on second reading.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Katarina. And we're just missing Councillors Zadek and Esslinger.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. We have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote. Carried 7-6.
Mayor, I'll move consideration for third reading on 3.7.
Second.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Please vote to allow third reading to proceed today.
I'm going to need to say yes.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. We've reflected that in the vote, and we're missing Councillor Esslinger.
Yes.
And we have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote. Carried.
And Mr. Mayor, I'll move third reading of bylaw 19568.
Second.
Third and final reading, please.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Katarina. And we're just missing Councillor Zadek's vote.
Yes.
Thank you. We have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote, please. Carried, 7-6. Next up is the Sherwood item.
Thank you very much. Holly Mickelson will provide a presentation.
We'll just wait for the presentation to be up on the screen. If someone could let me know when it is. Great, I see it. Thank you. Good afternoon. This is an application to rezone a site in the Sherwood neighborhood from RF1 single detached residential zone to the RF3 small scale infill development zone. The purpose of the RF3 zone is to provide for a mix of small scale housing for infill situations, which if applied to this site could result in 4 principal dwellings within the multi-unit housing use. This would likely be developed in the form of row housing. Next slide, please. Administration sent notification of this application to surrounding property owners, as well as the West Jasper Place Sherwood Community League. One correspondence was received with concerns regarding shadowing, shared driveway access, row housing being out of character with the neighborhood, and that there was already enough higher density development in the area. Next slide, please. There's no plan in effect for the Sherwood neighborhood. The subject site is located near the edge of the Sherwood neighborhood on the corner of 150th Street and 92nd Avenue Northwest. Being across from the alley from a commercial development fronting 149th Street, a secondary corridor as identified in the city plan. The site is well situated to benefit from the intended redevelopment and vibrancy on the secondary corridor. The proposed rezoning also aligns with city plan targets, adding 50% of new units through infill citywide. The residential infill guidelines suggest that row housing development be located on lots fronting or flanking arterial or service roads, or on lots fronting a school or park site. Although the site does not meet this locational criteria, it is administration's opinion that the site is suitable for RF3 zoning as a corner lot in close proximity to 149th Street, a secondary corridor, and where intensification of lots is recommended in the broader policy context. Next slide, please. This slide provides a comparison of key regulations in the RF1 and RF3 zones. The proposed RF3 zone would allow up to 4 principal dwellings compared to 2 allowed under the current RF1 zone. Recently approved amendments to the zoning bylaw allow garden suite development alongside additional housing types, specifically now semi-detached housing and multi-unit housing in the form of row housing. Previously, garden suites were only accessory to single detached residential. Although unlikely, this could develop with 4 principal dwellings, 4 secondary suites, and 4 garden suites, compared to 6 total dwellings permitted in the R4 zone. The site being within the, next slide, please. The site being within the mature neighborhood overlay further ensures that low-density infill development such as row housing are sensitive to the surrounding context. The front and rear setback requirements under both zones are identical, as well as their maximum allowable height at 8.9 meters. A greater interior setback under the R3 zone provides additional separation than those in the R4 zone. If the zoning is approved, a north interior setback of a minimum of 3 meters would be required, whereas in the RF4 zone, it only requires a 1.2 meter setback. Next slide, please. Future redevelopment of the corner lot under the RF3 zone will allow for increased housing choice in Sherwood. Administration is supportive of the R3 zone at this location and believes it is consistent with current efforts around infill in Edmonton's mature neighborhoods and in line with the very recently approved city plan. Administration recognizes the merits of providing opportunities for a missing middle housing product and alternatives to single detached housing and low-rise apartments in Edmonton's core. It is the administration's opinion that the site is suitable for the RF3 small-scale infill development zone and that council should consider approving this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Speakers on this are, well, let me check. Councillor Knack, you had selected this. Do you have questions for Mr. Mayhe?
Yes, if you don't mind, sir, I can't click on right now.
I do not mind at all. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Mayhew, thanks for joining today. I think one of the biggest concerns we're going to hear about today, because I remember getting an email from Mr. Rollins back in October. So heights are the same, all of that, but the biggest challenge that we have right now is there's a shared driveway between these two properties. And while I appreciate that any redevelopment could probably impact that, I just wanted to ask you if there's any conversations you've been having around trying to maximize that space still in whatever it is you would be approved to do in the future, if this is approved or if this was refused and you were choosing to do a single family home or semi-detached. Has there been any conversation around that shared driveway?
So I got an email from the city of Edmonton from Jeff Booth, and it stated that if approved that we would have to remove the driveway, which I've done in numerous amount of infill projects, and have the garage entrance coming from the rear. So we won't be sharing that driveway if approved with the multifamily. That'll be eliminated.
Well, maybe I'll ask the question this way, which is that so recognizing in any type of development, you could be much closer to the property line than you currently are. So I appreciate that this would apply even if you weren't applying for a rezoning. But in interest of being a good neighbor, I want to ask this question because I think it's going to come up. There's typically a 2 meter requirement separation between where the garage would be and 92nd Avenue if you were building in this built form that could be approved. Would you be open to looking at and connecting with the landowner to seeing if maybe you can apply for a variance to have the garage much closer to 92nd Avenue in order to try to maintain as much access as possible for the existing property owner?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, 100% we could apply for a variance.
Okay.
Given to be closer on the 92 side to give you a little bit more adequate space to swing into your garage.
Okay, that's I appreciate that, and I thought I'd ask it now because I imagine that's what one of the major concerns we're going to hear from Mr. Rollins. So I appreciate you were willing to do that, and I think those are all my questions for you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Mr. Mayhew? Not seeing any. Then next we'll hear from Mr. Rollins.
And thank you very much to Councillor Knack for those questions. I actually didn't have the contact information for the developer prior to today. So Tony, I see you're muted, but if you could take my number, it's 780-901.
Hold on. If you don't need to make that public. You could transmit it to us if you want. We can pass it along, just so that it's up to you. But just to give you a more secure conveyance, if you'd like.
It's fine. I'm a lawyer. I'm used to hiding my contact info, and I'm also used to handing it out. So. Yeah, I'm happy to put it out there. It's 780-901-7267.
At your discretion, sir. Okay.
Thank you very much. The issue that I had was indeed primarily shading and also the shared use of the driveway. The issue is that, and you can actually see it in the cover report on page 2, they are facing each other. They've been facing each other in this configuration for about 60 years. And if the fence line in particular is extended along the length of the property line, I have my 2-car garage turn into a 1-car garage really quickly because of the angles involved. So I appreciate Tony's answer there, and I'd be fully in support of any variance which would give me enough room to move my car in and out, and a second car when I get a second car in and out. The main concerns raised in my email to Councillor Knack were raised prior to having a full understanding of the RF3 or the neighborhood overlay. I wasn't aware of the 18-meter setback provision, and so I have far fewer concerns about shading. And I believe that my concerns, which were raised in terms of character of the neighborhood, were also made without understanding how the mature neighborhood overlay would interact with this rezoning. So I have no issue in terms of shading. It is really down to the access. And as long as that access can be dealt with, my wife and I are very, very much in support of greater density. And we've had no neighbors for much of the time we've lived in this neighborhood, and we're looking forward to having them. So I'm actually in support of the RF3 rezoning if we can work out the access, and it sounds like we can. And before I wrap up here, Mr. Mayor, I don't think I'll have a chance to say this to you again. You wrote a wonderful letter to my daughter about 1.5 years ago, explaining why she wasn't allowed to have a horse in this garage or on the park down the street. And I just wanted to let you know that she still has that on her or on the fridge and still takes a look at it every once in a while with disappointment and understanding. So thank you very much, sir, for making sure I don't have to purchase a horse anytime in the near future. Well, that's what I have to say today, but thank you.
Well, you have made my day, sir. I'm glad to have been of service to you in that. Sadly, it is part of the mayor's role to break hearts and say no to things sometimes. So, but thank you for your eminently reasonable submission. I'm sure Councillor Knack has 1 or 2 points maybe to just verify with you. Here he is. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Rollins. I'm sorry the mayor's crushed your daughter's hopes and dreams. My question that I wanted to just ask, so recognizing, and I appreciate that was probably the biggest concern here around that access, and the challenge, of course, is that we can't technically put a clause into this rezoning, but I have heard today, and you have since heard that we've heard the property owner is interested in working with you. That would likely require them applying for a variance and ideally getting like a letter of support from you to say you would be happy to have that garage shifted further to the south so it's up close to 92nd Avenue. So recognizing I can't guarantee anything here for you, do you feel more at ease with what we've talked about today?
I do, and thank you. My main question, I guess, would be, I believe there would have to be some sort of submission for redevelopment or at least demolition of the current structure on the lot. So knowing what we've talked about today, if I don't hear from the developer, I believe that I would be coming back when those further permits are filed for, and we'd be having this conversation again. But assuming I do hear from the developer, from Tony, then I don't believe there would be any reason for me to stand in the way of this.
Great, and I heard a commitment from Tony, so I would hope, especially being public and having this discussion, he would not want to do that. So thank you for the answers to those questions. I appreciate it.
Just wanted to say thank you very much, guys.
Sorry,
and
hold on just a second, Mr. Mahy. I will come back to you in a moment under new information, but so just stand by. I appreciate how amicable everybody is, but we have to go through a certain structure as prescribed by the Municipal Government Act. So bear with me here. We'll get there. I don't see any further questions for Mr. Rollins. Councillor Knack, did you have questions for administration?
Actually, not anymore. No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Now I'll see if there's any new information. Sorry, hold on. Questions of administration from
just
Councillor
a process
Henderson.
question, because we actually didn't change. There will be notification even if it's a Class A permitted use, correct? So there will be no notification either way? We didn't change that. There's notification to neighbors, Class A or Class B, correct? On a permit?
We didn't change that.
Okay, so one way or the other, there will be a chance to respond to this, I just flag it because this is an interesting case where, you know, the fact that there is notification on both Class A and Class B, I think is going to give some surety to the neighbor that wouldn't have existed if we'd taken that out. So just as a flag for future reference.
There's other notification means as well, including signage on site with the demo permit and the permit.
I mean, that's the one, you know, allowing them a chance to weigh in on this, I think is important, and I just thought it was interesting. So thank you.
We will also follow up with the applicant and the neighbor as well to make sure that they are communicating and that they have each other's contact information aside from what was just said in the public hearing. We could also put a note in our system as well, just to remind a development officer. And it would obviously put forth a demonstrated hardship as to why a variance may be required.
That's helpful. Thank you, Ms. Mickelson. Appreciate that. Any other questions for administration? Good double checking, Councillor Henderson. Not seeing any. Now, under new information, Mr. Mayhew, did you have anything to add?
Just wanted to say that I'm committed to talking to the neighbors. I've been a developer in Edmonton for close to 10 years and I haven't had any issues to date. So I would like to continue that trend and contribute to Edmonton and so forth. And I don't have any other further questions.
Thank you for that. Anything else from you, Mr. Rollins?
No, I'd just like to say thank you to council and to Mr. Mayhew as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please, well, actually now, with new information in hand, we can take a motion, Councillor Knack, if you'd be so kind to close public hearing.
Yeah, I'd be happy to move closure of public hearing for item 3.16.
I'll second this.
Seconded by Councillor Walters. Please vote to close public hearing.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Katarina. And we're just missing your vote, Mr. Mayor.
Oh. Submit vote. There we go.
And that's 13 votes.
Display the vote, please. Carried unanimously. First reading?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll move first reading of item 3.16 and very briefly speak to it.
Sure.
Second.
Go ahead.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. And again, just one last thanks to administration for being willing to make those flags, to Mr. Mayhew and Mr. Rollins for being so willing to work together. Even on a standard zone, it is possible to have things like this. So just appreciate everyone coming out to speak to that. And Mr. Rollins, of course, if for some reason you're finding any troubles, although I heard that verbal commitment multiple times from Mr. Mayhew, please do reach out to me. I live not too far away from that site, so hope that there's a way to make sure everyone is, we're continuing to densify the city while working through some of those very unique challenges you have. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I will be supporting this.
Thank you. So you'll personally keep an eye on it, eh? In the neighborhood. All right.
I ride by it.
That's service right there. Okay, please vote on first reading.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Katarina. And we have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote, please. Carried. Second reading?
I'll move second reading of item 3.16.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Please vote on second reading.
We're just missing Councillor Zadek's vote.
Yes.
Thank you. We have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote, please. Carried. Consideration?
I will move consideration of third reading for item 3.16.
Second.
Please vote to allow third reading to proceed today.
And we have 13 votes.
Display the vote. Carried.
And I'll move third reading of Charter Bylaw 19548.
Second.
Please vote.
We have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
display the vote, please. Carried. All right, and last but not least, we have the Meltwater Neighborhood Structure Plan item. I think we should get the presentation on that.
Mr. Rod Heinrichs will provide an overview of the new neighborhood in Dakota called Meltwater.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I trust my audio is coming through clearly.
Yes.
Okay, so if Madam Clerk can get the presentation up. Thank you. Items 321 and 322 pertain to a plan amendment and the adoption of a new neighborhood structure plan. Item 322 is the new neighborhood plan known as Meltwater, and item 321 is an amendment to update the Dakota Area Structure Plan and ensure alignment with the new neighborhood plan. Slide 1 shows the location of the Dakota ASP in context of the city. It's highlighted in yellow. The location of the proposed Meltwater neighborhood is also shown, highlighted by the red square. The Dakota ASP was approved by council in 2015. Slide number 2 shows the Dakota Area Structure Plan in more detail. The plan area encompasses the lands south of Anthony Henday Drive, north of 41 Avenue, and between 50th Street and the city boundary shared with Strathcona County. This will ultimately be home to 5 residential neighborhoods. If approved, Meltwater will be the second official neighborhood within the area structure plan. Slide number 3 highlights location of the proposed Meltwater neighborhood in blue. The neighborhood is located southeast of the intersection of Ellerslie Road and 50th Street. If I can ask Madam Clerk to toggle between slides 2 and 3 a couple times, you'll see the difference between the existing and the proposed map changes to the area structure plan. Slide number 4 illustrates the ecosystem concept known as the Emerald Crescent. This was a study of connected green spaces, wooded areas, and ecosystems that stretch approximately 10 kilometers across the undeveloped portion of southeast Edmonton, and has informed the planning of the Dakota Area Structure Plan, Dakota North Neighborhood Structure Plan, now named ALSACE, and the Meltwater NSP before you today. This concept supports both the city plan's big city move to be greener as we grow, the protection and enhancement objectives of the green and blue network in city plan, as well as the aspirations of BREATHE, Edmonton's green network strategy. Now that we've introduced the plan, I'll begin to walk through the various layers and touch on the highlights of the new neighborhood plan. So we'll start with the green network as illustrated in slide number 5. The NSP proposes to retain and protect approximately 80 hectares of natural area through the use of environmental reserve and or municipal reserve dedication. Here we see the base network of natural areas and wetlands shown in the dark green color. You'll note that additional green space in the form of school park sites, an urban village park, and stormwater management facilities are located to supplement the natural network and facilitate greater ecological connectivity throughout the neighborhood, as illustrated by the yellow arrows. Please note that this neighborhood identifies 3 school park sites, as opposed to the typical 2. This is to accommodate the needs of the public, separate, and francophone school boards. 5 wildlife mitigation passages are identified to support the safe movements of wildlife through the interconnected natural areas at locations where they may interface with roadways. Lastly, an urban village park is proposed in the southeastern quadrant of the neighborhood to facilitate an even distribution of programmable park space throughout the neighborhood. This park also has potential to accommodate a community league site and may also act as an interpretive entry point to the wetland complex for passive and educational recreational experiences. Slide number 6 illustrates the proposed storm drainage network. This critically important network forms the fundamental backbone to nearly every urban neighborhood by providing a connected series of stormwater management facilities to detain and manage rainfall and surface runoff events. The storm ponds are generally placed to work with the plan's natural drainage patterns and with consideration to the staging pattern of the neighborhood. The location of the stormwater management facilities are also intended to enhance the natural areas by supplementing connectivity, strengthening buffers from development, and maintaining water flows into the wetlands and wooded areas at pre-development levels. Slide number 7 illustrates the proposed roadway network for the neighborhood. Arterial roadways circumscribe the periphery, and a collector loops around the core with a series of radial collectors connecting the two. A significant portion of the core collector network will be designed to support the concept of safe routes to school by employing traffic calming techniques and limitations on front drive accesses, particularly across from school and park sites.
There you go, Ben.
Slide number 8 expands upon the transportation network by illustrating the active modes network. Here we see planned shared use paths around the periphery of the neighborhood and along the collector roadway, as well as connected systems to the parks, natural areas, stormwater management facilities, and into residential areas. This slide also identifies preferred areas for mid-block crossings and wildlife mitigation passages. In slide number 9, we begin to overlay the residential areas, identified in yellow, tan, and brown colors on this slide. Yellow illustrates the low-density residential areas. The tan colors illustrate street-oriented residential, and the brown areas identify medium-density residential nodes. As mentioned earlier, much of the street-oriented residential is located along the collector roadway to support pedestrian safety. The medium-density residential lands are distributed relatively evenly throughout the neighborhood in locations with good access and exposure to amenities. Low-density residential housing rounds out the remainder of the neighborhood. Slide number 10 illustrates the commercial land use layer. Here we see 3 categories of commercial land. A community commercial site, shown in dark red, is located along the northern boundary of the neighborhood. This will accommodate larger scale commercial uses that will appeal to the vehicular traffic along Ellerslie Road. A neighborhood commercial site is also located near the northeastern boundary of the neighborhood for smaller scale commercial uses. And a series of mixed-use sites are distributed primarily around the periphery of the neighborhood and are illustrated by the pink color tone. The plan policies will require that each mixed-use site will contain both commercial and residential uses at a projected ratio of approximately 40-60 respectively. This distribution and mixture of land use supports City Plan's big move of designing a community of communities with 15-minute districts. Slide number 11 illustrates the location of community services within the neighborhood. 2 sites are highlighted. One is a potential fire station at the north central boundary of the neighborhood along Ellerslie Road. The other is a potential religious, cultural, and residential mixed-use site in the northwest quadrant of the plan, illustrated in blue. Fire Rescue Services is currently determining their needs for this part of the city. If they ultimately decide on another location, the site within this plan will be allowed to develop for medium-density residential use. Lastly, we come to the mixed-use town center, illustrated in slide 12. This area is located on the northwest corner of the neighborhood and is colored purple on this slide. The intersection of Ellerslie Road and 50th Street is a district node within City Plan, so the planned land use is appropriate and will complement the commercial land uses already established and or planned at the southwest corner of this intersection in the Walker neighborhood and in the northwest corner of this intersection in the Charlesworth neighborhood. The town center is envisioned to be a transit-oriented development area with higher residential densities, mixed with commercial and office uses in a pedestrian-friendly, attractive urban environment. Next slide, please. An urban-style pocket park is planned to be located within the town center to enhance the attractiveness and livability of this more urban area. But nevertheless, this portion of the plan and the lands to the immediate west, labeled as ETS, are confronted with some unique circumstances that pose several land use challenges, such as accommodating a combined transit and park and ride facility, as identified under the Walker Neighborhood Structure Plan, accommodating a potential LRT station, accommodating a potential LRT storage facility, a pipeline corridor, and a planned road network that requires a jug handle to manage ultimate traffic movements. The city's corporate planning for these infrastructure demands is not sufficiently advanced to make firm land use decisions at this point in time. Therefore, the mixed-use town center is designated as a special study area in this plan to allow sufficient time and space to resolve these demands and design accordingly. With slide number 14, I'll conclude my discussion about the characteristics of the Meltwater neighborhood. In summary, this plan strives to be a home to 11,000 residents at a density of 45 units per hectare, satisfying the EMRB requirements. The plan also strives to ensure that 100% of residents will be within 500 meters of parkland, that 100% of residents will be within 400 meters of transit service, and that 97% of residents will be within 600 meters of commercial services. And it will retain and protect approximately 80 hectares of valuable and sensitive natural areas. With regard to public engagement, the proponents contacted all property owners within the plan area when the planning exercise was first initiated in 2016, 2017. As far as city notifications, notifications were sent to 43 surrounding landowners in May of 2020. One response was received and expressed concerns about being disproportionately harmed by environmental reserve and municipal reserve dedication requirements. A virtual open house was held in August of 2020 due to COVID restrictions on public gatherings. The open house was available for 2.5 weeks between the dates of August 11th to 28th. The open house received 268 visitors, of which 9 were classified as engaged, 85 were informed, and 195 were classified as aware. A variety of responses were received and are included in the What We Heard report attached to this bylaw package. Administration supports this application as an appropriate use of land at this location and recommends that Council approve these bylaws. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Heinrichs. Councillor Banga, do you have any questions for the applicants?
No, I don't, Mr. Mayor, for the applicant, but I do have questions for administration later on.
Okay, well, we'll hear then from the speaker registered in opposition, Janice Jantz. Oh, sorry, hold on. I should have checked. Councillor Henderson has questions for the applicants.
Yeah, I'm not sure who the best person to ask, so I'll ask the question and you guys can decide who's best to answer. I'm curious, it's a question I was going to ask of administration because it all looked really good to me. The one thing that I noticed in here is because it's not, if this was one of our kind of creek or river valley areas, there would have been an assumption in here that the spaces around the natural areas would have had to have public access. And I'm looking at the active modes, and it looks for the most part like the active modes do something very similar to that in a lot of the cases. But it's just interesting. It's a kind of habitual response we have in River Valley, but this is not actually strictly speaking River Valley, so I don't think it would apply. And just that question of making sure that the area around these spaces doesn't inadvertently become private space rather than public spaces. So one curiosity that I had, and I'll ask the question of administration as well, but I thought I'd let you guys respond also.
Yeah, I can answer that for your worship to Councillor Henderson. There are regulations within the NSP, I believe, in the active transportation section that talks about ensuring that or I believe it's actually in the green. Sorry, let me flip to the right page. Yeah, it talks about the access through, but not necessarily around. There are regulations in there to ensure that there is enough, about like the same kind of frontage that you would receive, like as with the River Valley or with storm ponds, that there is public access on the natural areas of within the plan.
Yeah, I know it's there. It's just, it's not a huge point. I just wanted, I think it's covered, and just to get your sense of the thinking, because it talks about access and it talks about viewscapes through, but that sense of in the River Valley, you would have to have at minimum a multi-use trail between a private property backing onto a green space and the green space, and I didn't necessarily see that here, and I think there's other reasons for doing it that are about protecting the public, that difference between public and private space. So it looks like you're going to do it anyway. I didn't see any text in there that actually spoke to that specific point. I don't want to make big deal out of it, but I thought I'd just give you a chance. So your intent is to do something like that, would be to wrap all the public spaces with public access, not just to give access into them, but also around them?
That is correct. Right now, what we're showing for the pathways is conceptual. We haven't done the studies into those areas. All the natural areas do have a 30-meter buffer that may or may not be adjusted once further studies are done. That's where we're looking to locate those shared use paths for residents.
And I would encourage you to do that, because I think otherwise you get into these gray areas between someone's backyard and the buffer space that I think is best avoided. So thank you. That was my question.
Thank you. Councillor Knack.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And again, I don't know who's the best person to answer this. Maybe I'm just misreading or misunderstanding the line in policy 27.1, and so just correct me if I'm wrong here, because the intent of the mixed use development is to ideally have, again, that 97% of people within that 15 minutes space. But by using and or, so maybe I'm just misreading it, but the way I read that policy is it says it has to have a mix, but then it also says and or, and so I'm trying to understand if there's any scenario where you could only just do residential in any of those mixed use spaces. And I don't think that's the intent, but I just want to be sure that I'm right about that. The way it's phrased sounded odd to me.
Yep, through your worship to Councillor Knack. The intent behind that regulation is because we're talking about commercial, institutional, and residential uses, we didn't want a situation where every single one would be required to put an institutional use in, because it might not be the case. We wanted to create that opportunity. In regards to your other half of the question, a site could develop as residential, but the other half of it would have to have some sort of commercial component so that it was mixed use, so that you could have a standalone residential and a standalone commercial.
I thought that was how it was worded. I just wanted to be sure. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. I don't see any further questions for the applicants at this time. Were we able to raise Ms. Jantz?
I'm here.
Welcome. So you missed the orientation at the beginning, but that's okay. You've got 5 minutes to offer your comments, and then please stay on the line as there may be some follow-up questions from members of council here. So welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Our submission for this public hearing to consider bylaw 19547 and charter bylaw 19538. It's unfortunate that the city is now trying to circumvent the requirement for public participation. The preparation of this plan commenced in 2016, and there have been no meetings with the affected landowners as a group. When the Dakota ASP was before council, there were numerous landowners with vocal and relevant concerns, and the response from council was that there would be opportunity to become involved at the NSP stage. Despite years of planning, no meetings were ever held with the affected landowners as a group. The Emerald Crescent Plan was also prepared without notification or involvement of the affected landowners. We have continued to express our concerns that our lands have been planned without adherence to the requirements of the MGA. We are now being denied access to updated land statistics for our parcel and the relevant technical studies. The MGA sets limits on the amount and type of land that can be designated for ER and public use. It now appears that more than 60% of our land is being designated for ER and public use, far in excess of the maximum 30% stipulated in the MGA. A large stormwater pond, numerous ER designations, an urban village park, 2 arterial roadways, a collector road that runs the entire length of the parcel, shared use paths, and ecological network connections have all been planned for our land. The MGA requirement for maximum public use area exists so that no one landowner is unfairly impacted. We have on numerous occasions pointed out that the city's attempt to buffer wetlands is not in compliance with the MGA requirement that only allows buffering around a body of water defined in the MGA as permanent and naturally occurring. None of our lands meet this requirement, yet the city keeps trying to designate a 30-meter buffer. We know that the city has not implemented this 30-meter buffer on the Ivor-Dent sports field nor in the Charlesworth neighborhood. While the city has noted that buffers on certain lands will be determined in the future, the city has no ability to require this buffer when areas don't meet the requirements of the MGA. In fact, ER can be negotiated through agreement but is not mandatory. The City of Calgary has, through their own studies and consultants' reports, noted that a bylaw can be challenged if it goes beyond the requirements of the MGA. Given this overreach, we are asking that the ER designations on buffering on our lands be removed. We also note that tree stands do not qualify as ER or MR. The city appears to want to retain the tree stands that exist in conjunction with one wetland on our property. The proper designation for this wetland is Conservation Reserve, as suggested by Invisitech. The city has also illegally drained onto our property for years, and this has substantially increased the size of the one wetland on our property. We've now asked the Office of the City Manager to address this issue to remedy years of bureaucratic stonewalling by the city and its employees. The city cannot illegally drain onto our property and then try and designate it as ER. The city has spent to date $6 million to preserve ER lands in this neighborhood, and if they wish to preserve more, then purchase is the option available, not dubious attempts to try and convince landowners that they can take land as ER without compensation. The city maintains and diverts property tax money to a fund specifically for purchase of ER. Given that the city has far exceeded the maximum amount of public use land on our parcel, we have asked that the Urban Village Park designation be removed. We have suggested that the city-owned land has numerous sites that would be more suitable for the Urban Village Park. There is access from various points as well as numerous areas that provide shelter from winds, making the city-owned lands far more conducive and cost-effective for an urban village park. As the province moves to enhance property rights for landowners, we welcome this initiative so that the attempt to devalue property for the city's benefit will be addressed. We will work with the city and the proponent to resolve these issues and bring our lands into compliance with the MGA requirements as long as we have access to the technical studies and our updated land statistics. Failing that, we cannot support the above-noted bylaws given the lack of required public consultation and the non-adherence to the MGA. That's my presentation.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Jantz? Councillor Banga.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out, Ms. Jantz. Couple questions for you. My first question is that public consultation open house. Were you a part of it?
I saw it on the website and I did respond to it. I just learned 2 weeks ago from Invisitech that up until 2 weeks ago, the city hadn't even posted the proper map on the website. So I'm not sure when people had a chance to look at that it was even the proper information.
Okay, and then once you knew about this open house, did you make any suggestions, or you just?
No, I made suggestions on the website, and I brought up the ER designations, those concerns, the fact that I don't believe it complies with the MGA.
Okay. And again, if you could remind me, what portion or clause of MGA is not being adhered to?
Well, if you look at the Municipal Government Act, it stipulates buffering around permanent and naturally occurring wetlands, which are crown claimable. We had a meeting with certain members of the city a year ago, January, and they confirmed that none of the designated lands on our area meet that definition. And we suggested at that time that buffering couldn't be allowed. They keep referring to the city policy, but the city policy is far in excess of what is allowed under the MGA.
Okay. And at this point in time, some of the questions going to be answered by the administration. What would you like to address? If I know I will ask the questions, but if there are any concerns.
Well, I've spoken to other landowners in the area, and they're concerned. I mean, I spoke to some of the people that participated in the North Dakota NSP, and I understood that there was numerous meetings that were had with the landowners as a group. I think the city missed the opportunity, the city and the proponent missed the opportunity to involve the landowners right at the start of the preparation of this plan. We have met with Invisitech many times, and they've been generous about allowing us to meet with them, but we weren't really allowed to put forward any suggestions. We were just kind of informed as to how the plan was proceeding. We were told that there was going to be a public open house. I understand because of COVID that things have certainly changed, but I really don't think that a lot of the landowners that are affected by this have been allowed to have their input into it. And that's very concerning. I mean, these are people's livelihoods, their property. It's been planned without their participation.
Okay. And I'm sure you must have gone through the report, what we heard the report. And was any of your concerns addressed at all, or was it totally?
I didn't receive any feedback. I reached out to Invisitech a couple of weeks ago and said, could I please have updated land statistics for our property, because things had changed, and I was just emailed and said, no, you can't have that information. I asked about getting access to the technical reports, and they said, no, you can try and contact the city, but we don't think you'll get it.
Okay, that's all my questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, just for my information, because I'm looking at that, we have a little map here that shows who owns what, but not with names on it. So I can understand which part of the NSP is your property in.
We're the most southern edge, butting 34th Street. Our family owns a property from 34th Street right through to 50th Street.
Okay, so there's two, so part of it's in this NSP and part isn't?
Yes, and I guess that's the other problem that has happened is the city has tried to kind of circumvent some of the planning and trying to give us statistics on our land. Some of it falls outside of this area, but we've already been told that it's not going to be developed, but yet on our land statistics it shows it is developable.
Okay. All right, just useful to know which part so I understand the implications. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Chance? Okay, I don't see any at this time, so we'll now take questions for administration. Councillor Banga?
Thank you. Yeah, you heard from Ms. Jans there about the lack of involvement of landowners in that area. Is there anything that we could have missed in there to ensure that their concerns are addressed, taken care of?
Thank you, Councillor. The typical process for when a new neighborhood plan is involved is it's a fairly lengthy process, as we've seen here, and this is fairly typical. It can take a number of years to kick off the planning of a project and then ultimately get to this point where we deliver it to City Council. So our procedures are fairly standard. We do send a notification out when we receive the application. In the case of neighborhood structure plans, there are participating landowners that sponsor the preparation of the plan, and there are regularly some other landowners who do not participate in the sponsorship of the plan. And so that process, sometimes there is some issues between communications between the aspirations of those two groups of stakeholders. So the city does kind of take it into its role to ensure that the process is transparent and done. Now, in the case of neighborhood plans, they are large, complex exercises, and a lot can change over the first 2 years of the exercise. And so we don't often put a lot of energy into communicating things out publicly or hosting meetings when things are so subject to change until we get close to the end of the process. As things get more finalized and more crystallized, that's when we'll host our open house. That's when we'll put efforts into to obtain input from all affected stakeholder groups. And so that's the most efficient process that we found in our practice to ensure that everybody gets accurate information and has an opportunity to have their say.
Okay, and when we say, then we produce a report, what we heard report, in this one, were there any changes implemented after that consultation?
Nothing that altered the form of the plan. We do respond to, administration does provide responses to questions when questions are asked. Sometimes we just get statements or expressions of opinion in a what we heard report. But where there are questions, we do our best to answer them and include them in the report.
Yeah, okay. I've been couple of those engagements, open houses. My concern always is that there are a whole bunch of maps posted on the walls or on the somewhere, and then people just go take a look at it and eventually, I guess, make some comments. But in your mind, you think that's an efficient process? Like by then it has already decided what's going to happen?
Well, I wouldn't say it's been decided, but the ideas and the plans do formulate and they do gel. We always make our administrative staff available to the public for follow-up questions. Our planners are also always available to anyone in the public who wants to approach them and ask questions, get more information, and we do facilitate that. And as far as the open house procedures, we do the best to avail ourselves and make the information available. Everyone engages or participates in different levels or different ways. We used to, in the old days, we used to hold big presentations, but we heard clearly from the public that lots of people weren't comfortable speaking in front of big crowds. They often found that intimidating, and so we've gone to an open house format for most of our engagement exercises, and we found that it works quite well.
Thank you. And my last question is, our I guess person in opposition expressed some concerns with that MGA was not followed. To your knowledge, we are going exactly by that, the MGA?
Yes, we believe we are. Environmental reserve is defined in the MGA, and it basically applies to not just water bodies. I think we just have a difference of interpretation with the citizen. ER is defined as a swamp, a gully, ravine, a coulee, or any other natural drainage course. And so quite often we will go back decades through air photos. If we see a pattern of an existing drainage course that has survived over many, many years, that's basically deemed as a natural reoccurring system and becomes kind of our foundation for whether we think it qualifies as ER or not. And that's our starting point.
Thank you. My time is up.
Councillor Paquette.
Yeah, thank you. My questions are going to be very different tact. But so I'm curious when I'm looking at this plan, and this is a larger question, but you know, seeing the focus in the report on crosswalks kind of made me think, like, when we have new communities, and in my ward we have this issue. There are missing sidewalk segments, there are crosswalks, and people are waiting sometimes 5 years, 10 years for these to come to pass. Meanwhile, they're creating basically goat trails and crossing where they can, somewhat unsafely. And so I'm just wondering if we're going to be a little bit more proactive in these new developments to ensure that crosswalks and sidewalk segments are not, like missing crosswalks, missing sidewalk segments are not an issue, that we actually build the people-centric infrastructure in when things are gone in. Because frankly, for some of my communities to be waiting 5 years just to be able to cross the street doesn't really strike them as sensible. So just a response to that.
Sure, I'll give a high-level answer, and then I'll perhaps ask Mr. Saeed to provide a little more detail.
Sure.
The aspirations of describing those facilities in the plan do provide guidance, provide a vision, but ultimately the details around that are provided later on at the rezoning, past the rezoning and into the subdivision stage, where you get into servicing agreements. And it's at that point where the details are worked out, and our engineering teams apply the design and construction standards to ensure that those facilities are provided. I'll ask Mr. Saeed to maybe fill in any blanks that I might have missed there.
I would agree with what has been said, and just to add that most of that work is done at the subdivision level. Not only that, but we also highlight the requirements at the zoning level for the proponents to be aware of the infrastructure needs associated with certain subdivisions in the area.
Okay, so I would submit that maybe something isn't working in the process because we leave folks on foot stranded, and part of the city plan now is that we do not do that, that we have people-centric infrastructure. And frankly, that should be out of the gate for communities. So I'm just wondering if there's a place to improve that.
Councillor, go ahead, Fazil.
Yeah, I would just about to say that it depends on the context as well. If it is a developed area and there are some missing infrastructure specific to pedestrian network, there are a number of initiatives on the go in terms of fulfilling those requirements through whether it becomes part of the bike network or other strategy work that the city is doing.
Okay, because again, we have roads, cars can get around very easily, people in their vehicles, but for people who just want to get around their neighborhood on foot, they're provided with something that is considered, I guess, good enough in the planning stage, but in reality, in the usage that human beings put their neighborhood to, we are obviously failing and off the mark. So I would say that we probably need to take a look at that. I don't know if that's going to require a motion or if that's just something that we can change our processes for due to the strength of the city plan. So any thoughts on that?
Councillor Paquette, I would say that it's Ms. McCabe here, that's work that's underway, very much through the growth management framework. We brought you an update to exec committee a few weeks ago on that, and we're continuing to look at that in terms of how do we best provide infrastructure at the right times in neighborhoods, and we have a variety of different ways to do that right now, where a developer funds the infrastructure or upfronts the infrastructure or the city upfronts the infrastructure. And so we're looking at that right now in that framework, and we'll be bringing recommendations to the next council. If we were to contemplate any changes about how we go about that, it would be in 2022.
Right. Well, I will say that from the amount of communications council gets from people who are frustrated with their pedestrian accessibility in their own neighborhoods, this is something that maybe should be a bit of a priority going forward. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we're coming up on the 3:30 break. And I've still got a couple of speakers, and then I suspect there'll be further new information and so on and so forth. But it is a real choice if you want to attempt to power through, or if you want to take a break and then carry on at 3:45.
It looks like we've got about 2 speakers, so if you want me to move extension, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Second.
Okay, so Councillor Paquette, seconded by Councillor Knack. I may need to hand the chair for approximately 90 seconds to Councillor Henderson, but understanding that option's there.
If you can wait until after I've asked my questions.
We'll see. Please vote on extending orders to complete this item.
Yes.
Apologies, the vote is just a bit delayed. It should appear shortly.
Here it is.
And thank you, Councillor Zadek. We have your yes vote.
I've voted twice now.
And we're just missing Councillor Katarina. Councillor Katarina, are you able to provide your vote verbally, please?
Maybe he started his break early. Well, we'll call it with 12. Display the vote, please. I shouldn't speculate. Displaying.
It has carried 12 votes in favor and 1 absent.
Noted. All right, so let's carry on then. Next in the queue was Councillor Henderson, I think.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So just to ask administration quickly, you heard my question earlier. I suspect this is going to come up in Dakota a number of times because we're so used to dealing with this where our ravine policies play out, and how we make sure we capture the same piece, I think, which is going to be important in the Dakota area, and whether or not we're covered on that.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, much of the detailed work around protecting these natural areas does carry on and roll forward to the later zoning and subdivision stages. So in this case, we've established our starting point is a 30-meter buffer around the environmental, the ER areas to protect them and provide access. And then as rezonings come forward, as soon as they begin to encroach within those areas, I think it's 200 meters, then we get a report. The applicant provides us a report with more detail. And that 30-meter buffer may be reduced, but it's our starting point, and if it can be justified, it'll be reduced. We'll certainly.
I don't want to hold this up and get into a whole bunch of fuss around this one, but as we go forward with Dakota, I think we should keep an eye on this, and I think I think there probably needs some kind of language around the fact that there's not just a buffer, but that there's public access in the buffer. I don't want to make a huge fuss about it right now, but I think it's something because I think there's every intention that will happen here, and it looks to me from the active transportation plan that it's anticipated. But I think, this issue is going to appear in Dakota in future NSPs, and I think it'd be good to get some kind of language like that in there as a kind of heads up for the future. I'm curious. In terms of Ms. Jant's questions, but because, if I understand her property, this is a learning moment for me, the fact that half of their property is in this plan and half will be in a future plan, how does that play out? I would then therefore presume that they're under no obligation to develop, so I doubt they would develop until the future plan gets done. Because I don't know how they would understand, they'd have to subdivide their property in a way that I can't see happening. So how will that play out?
Thank you, Councillor. The staging of the Meltwater neighborhood is going to proceed from basically northwest towards the southeast corner. So that part of the neighborhood is a bit of a ways off for development. It's forecast or anticipated most neighborhoods can take a 20-year build out. So the southeast quadrant of the plan will be the last area to develop. And so as development proceeds, rezonings and subdivisions will unfold and land will begin to be carved up in that manner. So
and things like the Urban Village Park would not even come into play until such time as they choose to redevelop, correct?
Correct.
And at that point, would that be considered part of their MR contribution? And if it wasn't sufficient, they would be recompensated for that, I presume, correct, out of other MR takings?
That's correct. Landowners, we typically collect 10%, and if we need more from any particular landowner, then there is compensation provided for that overage. And I need to circle back and correct. There was one correction we did make to the plan as a change on result of feedback, and one of the changes that did occur through the review process was the reduction in the size of that urban village park.
Okay.
It was larger at the onset of the plan.
So I'm looking, and then the other thing that presumably would be a contribution to this would be not the wetlands, would be the stormwater management facility, and I presume that compensation happens in the same way from other landowners?
Correct. Arterial roadways and stormwater management facilities are contributed to and paid for by all landowners in the area. So if you have more than your share on your property, you are compensated from the other landowners in the basin.
Right. So, and then the southernmost part of their property, which looked to me to be completely developable, was actually in the next plan, would be covered by the NSP to the south, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So the contentious part for them right now is on the ER. So what happens next on the ER question? I mean, that's not totally our call. I presume the province weighs in on that as well?
It's similar in staging to the other processes. It gets looked at and investigated more closely at rezoning and subdivision stages, but I'll ask Mr. Paul Foster to chime in about the practices and involvement of the province in the process.
Yeah, hi, Councillor Henderson. So we go through a process of technical studies, if you will, through determination of elements such as the environmental reserve and the wetlands. And as Mr. Hendricks alluded to earlier, we have what we consider proponents or landowners that are contributing to the plan and sponsors of the plan, and then other landowners that are non-participating. So we're not doing the on-ground technical assessments of the wetlands in their property. It's done based on a desktop analysis at this time because of the access to the property, the costs associated with doing the technical reviews. So as the planning proceeds after the NSP and they come in for rezoning and or subdivision, there will be requirement for them to contribute to their own technical documents of the Ecological Network Report Phase 2. And that will start to define better the boundaries of the wetland, the buffers, and those types of elements. So right now we apply a 30-meter pollution buffer around wetlands that are delineated through desktop analysis and not ground truth at the time.
Great, thanks. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Councillor Knack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think so just two questions. One, I just, again, wanted to make sure I'm correct in reading that mixed use policy. So the way it's worded is that you can only have, you can't build just one of the three. There has to be a combination of two of the three on all mixed use sites. What combination is to be determined, all of that. They don't have to be in a building form. It can be, row housing and something else, but there has to be a mix.
That's correct.
Great. Last question related to policy 1.4, and maybe I think I've seen that in other ones, but I don't recall asking about it before. When we're looking at, I think it's 1.2 or whichever one talks about the no more than 30% of the homes on a collector road can have a front drive garage. I'm curious as to why we've set that number. What's sort of the thinking behind that? are we comfortable with that in terms of making sure if you're running, say, a multi-use trail along a side of the collector road, which is required in the plan? Why 30% sort of where we're at?
I believe it's just to provide a little bit of flexibility for circumstances where it may not be feasible to restrict it, but I'll ask Mr. Saeed to provide a more detailed reply.
So this restriction is primarily coming from a couple of areas. One is the transit network. So the location of bus stops, and this 30% is primarily coming from our past practices and observations in different neighborhoods as they have developed. And it seems that with 30% limitation, there is ample opportunity for spacing the bus stops where they need to go.
Sorry, thank you for that. I realize maybe I didn't ask the question the way I should have, which is that I'm wondering why it's as high as it is versus saying, unless needed, there will be no front drive access, unless there are specific circumstances that really require that. If there's a hardship that requires it, we wouldn't want to encourage that. So I'm curious as to that, why we would then say, we'll not exceed 30% versus saying, and instead we want to discourage that and would prefer to see road access from an alley along a collector road.
So I think it's based on the type of product as well, given that there are front drive access product and the alley products as well. But I'll probably ask Mr. Heinrichs or Mr. Pollock to weigh in.
Thanks, Mr. Saeed. As Mr. Heinrichs alluded to allow flexibility within the neighborhood, especially one is designed like this, there is a lot of open space in wetlands and natural areas that will require a different type of street pattern development instead of your standard alleyways. So it is to add that flexibility, but at the same time ensuring that, as Mr. Saeed alluded to, that the bus network as well as the schools are respected so that those safety concerns are mitigated within it.
Okay. Do we normally sort of set a target like that, or is this unique because of those circumstances that you've raised?
I personally haven't seen it in other plans. Maybe Mr. Ford or Mr. Heinrichs can.
Yeah, Councillor Knack, maybe I can jump in here. Yeah, it's been a practice, I think, of a number of plans that we've done, probably throughout the last decade. We've noticed it works quite well. And it's something we can hold the developers to when they come in with rezonings and further subdivisions. And as was alluded to earlier, it gives us separation distances from schools and avoids potential conflict. So we've noticed it, we've used it, and we think it works quite well. So we've tended to include it, and it's been pretty well uptaken, I would say, by the industry as well.
That's fair. Yeah, I was just, and again, the question is more in the sense of, does that give too much potential for that on a roadway that, if we're being honest, many of the collector roads in a lot of new neighborhoods before complete streets before that weren't really thought of as a multimodal corridor. They weren't built with multi-use trails. Whereas if we're doing that with this one, I just wanted to make sure we weren't creating a situation where there was a lot of conflict points if you had the full 30% uptake along a collector road, which is going to have other mode of transportation opportunities. So it doesn't sound like we're concerned about that potential conflict.
I would agree. No, we're not.
Great. I'm out of time. Thank you very much.
Councillor Benga, do you have more questions?
I do. Just
I'll move a second round.
Thank you, Councillor. Oh, you haven't asked of admin yet?
No.
Oh, okay. Then go ahead on the first round.
Thank you. Mr. Hendricks, just a point of clarification. So when we create an NSP, whether we there's some kind of feedback there for some reason, whether we want to or not, we unintentionally create some winners and losers in the process, depending upon what their land is being used for. Would that be fair to say?
I suppose, I mean, in order to provide the fundamentals for a functioning neighborhood, you absolutely need certain things. You need a storm pond, you need roadways, you need school park sites, you need programmable park space, and you need the infrastructure to provide all that. So it has to go somewhere. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have systems in place through ARA assessments and PAC assessments where we try to fairly redistribute those burdens, cost burdens, to compensate those particular landowners that may have to accommodate those facilities.
Okay, and then then I heard the compensation part there. How do we? Who compensates the so-called people who didn't get the proper value of their money or land assets?
An oversimplified version is simply that the city acts as a broker to redistribute the money between the different developers and landowners within a plan area or a catchment. So we determine the cost that the storm ponds and the roadways are going to cost, and whenever a landowner or developer develops, they pay a fee. It's often perceived as they're paying the fee to the city, but in reality, we are basically taking that money and acting as a broker and redistributing it to the other developers that have front-ended costs in order to allow a neighborhood or a subdivision to proceed.
Okay. But this compensation for the property owners, there is no compensation for them, is it?
Yes, if they are, let's take the example of a storm pond. Let's say if they have a storm pond on their property and it's necessary to serve the neighborhood, they're obliged to contribute their fair share based on their land area to it. But the funds for anything over and above that would come from the other landowners in that basin that would also need that storm pond in order to develop their lands. That's the essential balancing and brokering role that the city plays. And if Mr. Tawana has any additional information on how PACs work, I'll invite him to contribute.
I think you've covered it quite well, Rod. So, Councillor, essentially all the landowners contributing to a particular storm pond would share the costs. One of them is going to be left with the burden of creating that storm pond initially. The subsequent land developers, as and when they develop their land, they would be paying money via the city acting as a broker to the original landowner who created that storm pond.
So again, I still am a little bit confused. Let's say I owned a couple acres of land and they were, I guess, designated as storm pond. As a landowner, I don't get no extra value or less value for that, do I?
No, if a storm pond is designated on your land and you create that storm pond, the other developers within that area that is contributing to the storm pond would be paying you money as and when they develop.
All right. Okay. Thanks. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Banga. Are there any other questions for administration at this time? Not seeing any. Is there any new information from the applicants? Not hearing any. Is there any new information from Ms. Jantz?
I did have to mute Ms. Jantz, so she may need to star 6 to unmute if she wishes to speak to new information.
Ms. Jantz, if you could unmute and let us know. There you are. We can. You appear to be unmuted.
I'd just like to say that the land statistics that we got show the small portion of our portion of the land that's in the next neighborhood. It shows as being developable, but the city's already confirmed that it won't be developable because they want to preserve it as a core biodiversity area. So it's not going to be developed. I mean, when you look at the amount of land that we're being asked to contribute, it's probably 50 to 60%, and that's quite outside of any kind of recommendations of or the law of the province, which is the MGA. So we have some real concerns about what has happened and what has taken place over the last 5 years.
Thank you. Any questions on Ms. Jan's new information? Councillor Henderson?
I'm a little bit puzzled by that. I'm looking at the aerial photos, and unless I'm confused about what your land is, it looks like open field right now. Is it not that area?
It is open field.
So I could ask questions. I don't know how that would. And the next plan would suggest what the expectations are for it. And I'm sorry, I'm not pulling that up. I can try and do that. I just puzzles me that we would consider it. I mean, I can understand the stuff on the northern part of your property being important for biodiversity, but I'm puzzled why. And we don't know that yet unless it's in the ASP.
The reason the arterial road was right the way it was to avoid that land. It is being cropped, has been for 50 to 60 years, but the city has decided they want to call that a core biodiversity area. There's a large stand of trees that is immediately south of our property, and I would imagine what they're trying to do is apply buffering again.
I'm fascinated by that. I'm actually now looking at the NSP or at the ASP, the whole Dakota plan, and it actually shows that land as being residential, all of it. So I'm puzzled by that. Okay, I can ask more questions about that, but sure, maybe I'll ask questions to admin if it's all right, just to clarify that one. I think it might be helpful. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Ms. Jans? Not seeing any. Then unless there's any other new information arising.
I'd like to go back to admin if I can, just to clarify that last bit.
Go ahead.
Sorry that I realize this will open up new information again, but I'm puzzled by that. It sounds like there's a communication piece that doesn't make sense to me, because I'm looking at the NSP, and the NSP says that the southern portion of their land is all marked as residential. Are we missing something? Is there a communication glitch here?
Councillor Henderson, I'm looking at the same map, and I would agree that the remainder of her area south of 25th is all designated as residential in the area structure plan.
Yeah.
And to be determined at time of
that plan. I understand it's in two different plans, so it's complicated, and my guess is, which is why I asked the questions earlier, they won't likely develop their land until both halves can be dealt with, which means that other plan will have to be in place. That would be my guess. I can't see the scenario playing out any other way. No one's going to compel them to develop, correct?
Correct. That would be the normal pattern of development. You would see development starting in the neighborhood to the south, and they would develop concurrently.
So this question would be sorted out. So unless at this point, if that land was to be something other than residential and developable on their southern portion, it would mean a change to the ASP would have to happen, correct?
It would, yes.
Yeah, so at this point, as far as we know, it's developable, so I don't know where I just thought it was worth asking, because I think, it sounds like there's some information that's got out there that's muddied the water unnecessarily here. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other clarifying questions to admin? Any new information arising from the clarifying questions? Or otherwise? Hearing none. Then
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move the closure of public hearing on item 3.21 and 3.22.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Nicol. Please vote on closure of the public hearing.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Katarina. We have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote, please.
It has carried 13 votes in favor.
Okay, thank you. Want to move first reading, Councillor Banga?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, I'll be happy to move the first reading of item 3.1 and, 3.21 and 3.22.
Second.
Please vote.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Katarina.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Zadek. And the vote should be coming through now. And we have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote. Carried. Unanimously. Second reading? Or have we got all three readings?
Speak to it,
today?
please, briefly.
You can speak to second reading. I need second reading on the floor, though.
On the floor first, okay. I move the second reading of item 3.21 and 3.22, please.
Second.
And we've got all three readings here today? Okay, all right. So speaking to second reading, Councillor Banga, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know the consultation process we have currently in place. If it does address all the issues by the neighbors, I know there is no process that's going to be perfectly, I guess, 100% good, but every time we do this, it keeps coming up again and again to any new area structure plan and neighborhood structure plan. And I know there's some work coming later on in respect to this, but I don't know if that's gonna help this current NSP that's before us. I mean, I do share my little bit of frustration with the owners of the land in there, but I do still want to say that that we need to improve this process somehow. Not to find any faults, but somehow we need to get most of the concerns, if not all of them, addressed. So my apologies to Ms. Jans. I've been told that all MGA clauses were followed, and there is nothing that further could have been explored by the administration at this time. So I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Banga. Councillor Henderson? No? Okay. That's from before then. Then please vote.
We have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote. Carried. Councillor Banga, would you like to move?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move the,
consideration for third reading?
Consideration for third reading. of item 3.21 and 3.22, please.
Seconder? I'll second consideration.
Second.
Please vote.
And we're just missing Councillor Nichols' vote.
Councillor Nicol, are you there?
It looks like he is on the call, but is muted.
Okay, well, we'll mark him absent for this. Please display the vote.
There, finally got on jam there. Sorry about that. So I'm a yes.
Okay, so noted.
We have 13 votes.
Display the vote.
We do have 13 votes in favor, Mr. Mayor. Apologies.
Okay, thank you. I'll take your word for it. And Councillor Bangan?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move the third and final reading for bylaw 19537 and charter bylaw 19538.
Second.
Thank you. On third and final reading, please vote.
And we're just missing your vote, Councillor Zadek.
Yeah, I'm a yes.
Thank you. We have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote, please. Carried. All right, came up that time. Okay, I understand Councillor Hamilton has a subsequent motion from an earlier item in the meeting. If the wording is ready, please go ahead.
I am ready. I'm moving, subsequent to the discussion on 3.3 and 3.4, that administration return to the March 16, 2021 City Council public hearing with a verbal update accompanying bylaws 19558 and 19559 regarding the phasing and upgrading of 215 Street Northwest, Winterburn Road Northwest, adjacent to the Edgemont neighborhood.
Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Knack. Okay.
I have no introductory remarks, but I understand the verbal update will mean that administration doesn't really have to re-advertise, but we can get some answers to some of the questions I was asking regarding the road upgrading.
Okay. And that works for admin? Okay. All right. We'll take it as contextual information rather than a policy discussion. If there's a policy discussion, the right place for that will be at committee subsequently, but direction can be given at the hearing as appropriate. So just mindful of the P's and Q's. But seeing no further questions on this, Councillor Hamilton to close.
Nothing more, thank you.
Okay, please vote.
We're just missing Councillor Walters' vote.
I'm a yes.
Thank you. We have 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote. Carried. All right. Notices of motion. Not seeing any, then we are adjourned. Thank you all.